Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we're going to be talking about Ripple and XRP, as well as the overall markets. Let's just dive in, and let's first start off with this video that JV the Great posted over on Twitter. This is Biden on the bank's collapses. Now listen closely to what is being said in this video, and then I'm going to address a few things after the fact. So yeah, just listen closely.
Thanks to the quick action of my administration over the past few days, Americans can have confidence that the banking system is safe. Your deposits will be there when you need them. Small businesses across the country, the deposit accounts at these banks can breathe easier knowing they'll be able to pay their workers and pay their bills. And their hardworking employees can breathe easier as well. Last week, when we learned of the problems of the banks and the impact they could have on jobs of small businesses and banking system overall, I instructed my team to act quickly to protect these interests. They've done that. On Friday, the government regulator in charge, the FDIC, took control of Silicon Valley Bank's assets. And over the weekend, it took control of Signature Bank's assets. Treasury Secretary Yellen and a team of banking regulators have taken action, immediate action. And here are the highlights. First, all customers who had deposits in these banks can rest assured they'll be protected and they'll have access to their money as of today. That includes small businesses across the country that bank there and need to make payroll, pay their bills, and stay open for business. No losses will be, and this is an important point, no losses will be borne by the taxpayers. Let me repeat that. No losses will be borne by the taxpayers. Instead, the money will come from the fees that banks pay into the Deposit Insurance Fund. Because of the actions that our regulators have already taken, every American should feel confident that their deposits will be there if and when they need them. Second, the management of these banks will be fired. If the bank is taken over by FDIC, the people running the bank should not work there anymore. Third, investors in the banks will not be protected. They knowingly took a risk, and when the risk didn't pay off, investors lose their money. That's how capitalism works. And fourth, there are important questions of how these banks got into the circumstance in the first place. We must get the full accounting of what happened and why those responsible can be held accountable. In my administration, no one is above the law. And finally, we must reduce the risk of this happening again.
So, yeah, they're basically saying that they don't know how this happened, which by now they should have 100% have known how this happened. And also, I do think that what we are hearing is nonsense. I think that they are just telling the people what they want to hear. We know that 97%, over 97% of the depositors into this bank were over the $250,000 threshold that is covered by the FDIC. There's absolutely no way that all of this is covered. But hey, maybe I'm wrong, but from what we've seen, the data has proven that 97% of all depositors were over $250,000. Now, I also did go on Twitter and I tweeted this. I said, mainstream media will continue lying to you, saying that your money is safe, banks are safe, don't withdraw. Remember, these banks are not your friend. The traditional system was engineered against the retail sector. And this is exactly why hearing these words saying, hey, everything's fine, everyone will be covered, this, that, whatever, we heard the same exact thing in 2008. They wanted you to keep your money in a bank. Oh, everything's fine, you will be covered, you will be safe. This is why we have the FDIC insurance, blah, 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 all this nonsense. Every single time. I want you all to realize that this is nonsense. They want you to keep your money in the bank. They want you to be a victim when the banks start to collapse. I'm telling you right now, they don't care about you and your money. Now, also, we just recently seen a few updates from Binance as well, or I should say on the Binance situation. And I thought this was comical, right? We've seen 100B Viking post this, and we do see just a few months ago, the narrative the media was peddling was that Binance was insolvent. Again, mainstream media creating this FUD that everyone plays into, to withdrawal and this and that. Guess what? Two banks in the US just collapsed in a week, 1 week, in what is regarded as the second largest bank failure in US history. How is Binance faring? The numbers will surprise you. First off, Binance reserves. Contrary to the extreme FUD at the same time that, we were seeing these things happen, Binance survived one of the biggest stress tests and any financial institution has ever faced. Relatively speaking, processing over $10 billion in withdrawals in mere days. And it was over $14 billion in withdrawals. And more importantly, data shows that Binance's reserves have since grown by a massive $9.59 billion. At the time, there was $55.72 billion in Binance reserves. Now, there's $65.31 billion in Binance reserves. Binance, market share. It isn't just Binance's reserves that have grown, its market share has grown as well. Third-party data shows that Binance's market share has grown for 4 consecutive months. Furthermore, Binance's spot volume has increased by 13.7% to $504 billion. The fact that Binance is growing this massively during one of the worst bear markets ever, when it is arguably the most funded organization on earth, speaks volumes. Binance has been stress tested and it has proven itself. Trust in the Binance brand, which, by the way, I don't care how great Binance looks, do not keep your assets on Binance. BNB Chain, the growing trust in Binance despite the FUD and attacks extends to all aspects of the Binance ecosystem. A notable example is the BNB Chain. Data from Coin98 Analytics shows that the BNB Chain is the most utilized blockchain in the world. In fact, the BNB Chain has almost the same number of daily active users as the 3 next most used blockchains, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Polygon. These aren't small blockchains either. Impressive. And also bank collapses. 2 major US banks have collapsed this week. More are on the brink. These banks haven't been subjected to half the pressure Binance has been subjected to, especially coordinated FUD. Meanwhile, Binance continues to grow stronger. In conclusion, if you were to believe the media, Binance would be gone by now, yet it has grown stronger due to the strong fundamentals. Meanwhile, major banks have escaped media scrutiny are collapsing. Do with this information what you will. And again, I want you all to understand that the traditional system is failing as crypto is thriving. This is incredible to see. Now, also, today, we just seen Jim Cramer urge investors to sell their Bitcoin yet again. We do see over here Jim Cramer on his Mad Money show, which I just talked about, 380,000 nightly viewers, told his viewers to sell their Bitcoin in this rally today. He also recommended FRC on Friday before its 70% collapse. What is going on? Why does Jim Cramer still have a talk show? Why is he still on the mainstream media? Oh yeah, that's right. Going back to what I was saying, they love lying to you. They don't care about your money. They want you to stay in the rat race. They don't want you to succeed at all. Now also, within the market, with everything that is happening. So first off, I shared with you guys yesterday my Bitcoin chart. I talked to you guys a little bit about my Bitcoin chart. Today, I want to share with you guys something very interesting. So we have reclaimed significant areas of demand, specifically the 786 at 22.7K, almost 22.8K. The next level is our high. This is where the most resistance has been. We have a tap back here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, we need to break this on the next run up. It's a lot weaker now than before. And on the daily, you could see how many tests that we've actually had of this resistance zone. So are we going to break it this time? If we do break it this time, by the way, if we do break it this time, I am expecting us to get this run up to my demand zone up here, which is the 1272 and the 1414. This is significant demand. I've been talking about it for a while. This will also be us reclaiming the 100 or the 200 3-day EMA, which is this blue line here. Now, up here is where I do expect to have a pullback, just to be fully transparent with you. I would love to see us continue to push forward on, but what I'm expecting is possibly a retest of the resistance. We might get a little bit of a rejection here. We might come down. Maybe we'll back test resistance. Maybe we won't go down as much as we've seen recently on the low. We will probably come back down to about like anywhere between 23.6K or so, but then we will continue higher here. We will break out, finally get that tap up here. We'll have a pullback, might be 28.9K. It might be even lower depending on how the market situation looks, because again, there's really not a lot of support here at all. So, if anything, I would like to see us come back down to the summer lows. That will be, beneficial for us on the short term. And then after that, we will continue to go higher, possibly retest the 1618 up here at about 34.2K. This will also be an area where we most likely get a rejection and a pullback down to about like 33K before continuing higher. So it's going to be a little bit of a step up, but it could also surprise us with having a significant move to the upside like we've seen back in 2020 and 2021. Things can change drastically, and I always share like, here's where we had a few price action levels around like 17, 18K. Here's where we start to break out. And if you look at where we are at now, we could be in a scenario where we have something like this, where, we do continue higher and we just continue to push higher before having a rejection and a strong rejection. This is where we will most likely see a pullback back down to the 1618 like we did see back here, and it could even be deeper. It could be back down to like the 1272 like we've seen back in 2021, but things can move very fast. Now, although while we are looking at this price move, I do want to share this chart that Credible Crypto actually posted over on Twitter, and he's saying the writing is on the wall. As I have said many times, I expect Bitcoin to lead the market out of this correction, as it always has done, into a major impulse, the likes of which we have only seen twice since 2017, sending Bitcoin dominance to levels we haven't seen in over 2 years. As alts begin to rally and catch up with Bitcoin, dominance will peak and begin to fall, ultimately making new all-time highs or new all-time lows, as money flows from Bitcoin into alts post-Bitcoin cycle top Bitcoin. And this is what he's expecting with Bitcoin dominance, which I've been talking a little bit about this. I do think that we could possibly see a rejection at around 47.7 as well as 48.9% as well. If we do continue higher, that's great as well, because the higher that this goes, and we come down to like 35% or even lower, then guess what? Altcoins are going to go absolutely crazy. Now, with this in mind, I also want to share with you guys the fear levels. We actually seen JT here to help post this over on Twitter. This comforts me like a warm blanket. Frankly, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if we had a deep wick lower to break the needle off. Equities Fear and Greed Index. This got posted yesterday at around 7:36 p.m. When we actually look at the overall market, we could have a little bit of a pullback here. We've had a very nice impulse here. I wouldn't mind seeing a retest of like 22.7K before we continue higher. Like I said, this would be the most predictable price action, where we do come up to 25.3K yet again, reject off of it, have a little bit of a local support zone form here, and then we continue higher. That's what would be healthy, but anything is possible. Now, I also want to share with you guys what Johnny Deaton said over on Twitter. I do believe that XRP is a ticking time bomb, more so specifically the case around XRP. We do see over here, as each day passes, Judge Torres' decision in the Ripple case becomes more significant. If she wholeheartedly adopts the SEC Gov's theory that all transactions of XRP, including XRP traded in the secondary markets, are securities, it will provide Gensler both cover and momentum. And here we have from Eleanor Terrett, new Signature Bank board member Barney Frank says the bank closure was political. I think part of what happened was the regulators wanted to send a very strong anti-crypto message. We became the poster boy because there was no insolvency based on the fundamentals. And I do think that regulators are trying to send a message like against the entire crypto market. In fact, earlier today we started to see Jim Cramer calling Bitcoin and calling crypto this fake market, if you will. Again, that's where this quote comes from. In my opinion, like, it just shows the true colors of regulators as well as the traditional system players. Like, they are scared of this technology. I've said it time and time again in the past. They are terrified of this market because if this market does continue to succeed, we take dominance away from the traditional system. But we do see, dear God, Barney Frank openly admits that Signature was arbitrarily shuttered despite no insolvency because regulators wanted to kill off the last major pro-crypto bank, Colossal scandal. And here we have, for his part, Frank, who helped draft the landmark Dodd-Frank Act after the 2008 financial crisis, said there was no real objective reason that Signature had to be seized. I think part of what happened was that regulators wanted to send a very strong anti-crypto message. Frank said, we became the poster boy because there was no insolvency based on the fundamentals. That's why, as we do look at this case, it definitely is a ticking time bomb. Every single day that passes, we are getting closer and closer to that decision. But it becomes more and more significant around this entire industry because we need some sort of major update around this case. We need this case to be fully done and finished and put behind us because we need to give the SEC a massive loss because for the most part, the SEC is utilizing their power still, and they are going after this entire crypto market in a way that is just enforcement by regulations, or if you will, regulations by enforcement. And they're just utilizing their power, their elite status as a government agency, if you will. which I think is complete nonsense. I think that almost every mainstream con artist, if you will, because I do think that Jim Cramer is a complete con artist for the retail sector. Um, all of these people pushing this nonsense around how you should avoid crypto, you should stay out of crypto, all of this nonsense, they're not only hurting, individuals financially, but they're also hurting us in terms of an opportunist view, because there's a huge opportunity here, that not only will allow innovation within the US to thrive, but it will also open the door for a lot more job offerings. So you got to remember, there's so many crypto jobs that are moving overseas. Like, there's so many job offerings from Ripple, for an example, to build crypto-driven use cases. And even exchanges, Binance has a ton of job offerings. I think that they just hired 10 new workers. Like, we need innovation to stay within the US. This asset class is going to be the next frontier technologically, as well as, around a lot of these major industries. So we need to see an update around this case. We need a big win, especially on the side of crypto, because we cannot have the SEC continuing to strong arm these companies and these big names. Like, this is terrible. This scandal is ridiculous. So with all that in mind, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on if you guys have more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. So it's up to you all. Have a beautiful day, beautiful night. If you guys are on this before, this has been Nick. Peace out, guys.